What do we do next? Do we sack Potter? Do we bring an interim manager in? Do we sign a new manager right now? What's the next move for Chelsea? What do you guys think we must do next? I'm going to give you guys my opinion as to what I believe we should do next. When I made that review yesterday stating that we should be Potter in, it's not necessarily because I think he's the right man going forward. It's because there is no better alternative in the market. The manager market is very dry right now. I'm a guy that focuses on solutions rather than the problems. Cool, it's not working out with Potter right now. But there's not really an alternative. If we had an abundance of world-class attacking football, philosophical managers available right now screaming to sign for Chelsea, I would say pull the trigger on Potter. Because 2 wins in 15 is abysmal. It's not acceptable for the level of Chelsea Football Club, which I concur. The problem I have is there's no availability for anyone. Now, I know you guys were in the comment section yesterday screaming, saying get Zinedine Zidane. I don't think Zidane is good enough for Chelsea. I know that's very controversial to say. Is he an upgrade on Potter? Potentially. But upgrade in what context? Because he's another short-sighted manager. Again, yes, he did the three-peat at Real Madrid, but look at the team that he had. He got outclassed by Thomas Tuchel on our road to the Champions League win. Right? He's only won La Liga a couple of times in how many years? Once again, he's more of a cup manager and he's not got the tactical nous, so he's not as tactically astute as a Thomas Tuchel or a Jose Mourinho or a Pep Guardiola. So for me, Zidane is out the question. If you're going to get a short-sighted, winning mentality manager, you go and get Jose Mourinho or you go and get Thomas Tuchel again. You don't go for Zinedine Zidane because Zidane is a downgrade to a Mourinho or a Tuchel. So for me, Zidane is out of the picture. Personally, I want a long-term attacking football project manager, and that's why I was so ardent with Graham Potter. But clearly, things aren't clicking right now. It may seem as if he's lost the dressing room. So for me, a shortlist has been formulated as to who I believe should be good candidates if things did really go sour and if we were only 3 points off the drop zone. My number one choice would be Hansi Flick. Hansi Flick did the sextuple at Bayern Munich. He's currently the manager of the German national team. He's doing relatively well, of course. I know he's got a lot of talent there and he's not really producing with the German national team. But again, that's the process in and of itself. But Hansi Flick at club level has done fantastically well. You know, Bayern Munich didn't win a Champions League in nearly a decade. He came there and won the Champions League again. JDP, really good attacking, flowing sort of football and identity that he'll impose at Chelsea. And I remember when we played against him with Lampard, he completely outclassed us. So I think that Hansi Flick, again, is a fantastic option. And personally, my number one option, if I'm being honest, Tuchel is my true number one option. But I'm being realistic here. Tuchel is more idealistic because Bowley's not going to swallow his ego and swallow his pride and get Tuchel back. So I don't think Tuchel is realistic at all. So for me, Hansi Flick is number one. Mourinho is another one that's been shouted again. He's been sucking off the owners in recent interviews, which I understand. Again, new owners, could he come back for a third time? Possibility. And of course, it would be based on sentiment because it is quite sentimental. I love Mourinho. He has a place in my heart for what he achieved and won at Chelsea. The problem I have with Jose Mourinho is he's not an attacking manager. It's win now, short term, short-sighted, sacrifice everything at all costs to win in this current moment, sacrifice a long term. We've been there and done that, and this is a part of the reason why we're even in this mess in the first place, is because of managers like Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, those sort of short-sighted managers that have brought us to this mess in the first place. So for me, if I'm thinking logically and rationally, Mourinho is a no-go. If I wanted Mourinho, it's down to my heart and sentiment, which I do kind of want him back. But I know that in terms of our long-term future, Mourinho is a no. So for me, it's between Hansi Flick, and there's other names out there as well, like Spalletti, who's doing fantastically well at Napoli as well. And there's other managers out there. My question to you guys is, what do we do in this current state? Because is Hansi Flick going to lead the German national team right now to come to Chelsea? Most likely not. If he was ever going to move, it'd be at the end of the season. So what? You sack Potter and you get what? An interim manager in? For me, it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. Unless results go terrible, I'm talking catastrophic, I don't see how Graham Potter gets sacked. Because again, think of it from a financial standpoint. Bowley has come in and bought Chelsea Football Club for the long term, a long project. To undermine all of his work that he's done, the amount of money that he's spent for Graham Potter as well, the entire recruitment staff, the team that he's brought with Potter. He's invested so much that it's now come to the sunk cost fallacy, and it's basically an economic term that states that when you put so much investment into something, you delude yourself into thinking that it's going to work, even though it might not logically. Because you've invested so much, you can't really back out or pull out. So you have no choice but to back the project. And that's currently the situation Bowley and Egbali's in, where it's the sunk cost fallacy. We've put so much money into Potter and the recruitment team that we sort of have to make this work, if that makes sense. So we have no choice but to give him time. We spent £22 million to get him out of his release clause at Brighton. We then gave him a 5-year contract worth £12 million a year. So that comes with his total contract of £60 million, plus the 22 we spent on the release clause. That's £82 million, and that's on Graham Potter. Then his assistant manager, Bruno, the entire staff, and then the recruitment team, including all of those wages, you're looking just south of £100 million if we get rid of him now. £100 million just on a manager. And if we get another manager that's currently at another club, we're going to have to pay his release clause as well. And then all the money we've spent, and he'll look like a laughing stock for getting rid of Tuchel in the first place. And then where do we go from there? It's back to square one again. So from a financial standpoint, we have no choice but to back the process and back Graham Potter. The only way, in my opinion, that Potter leaves is if we're only a few points off the drop zone. We're 10 points off top 4. We're still in the Champions League, but we're also 10 points off 17th. So if it starts getting sticky, let's say hypothetically, we lose our next 5 Premier League games. Let's say we lose all 5. I genuinely don't see a world in which Potter stays. I personally don't see it. I just don't see it. I believe Tottenham Hotspur's our next Prem game, then we got Leeds. If we lose those next 2, it's looking very sticky. It's become very toxic now because the fans are booing after the game. Bowley was at the grounds. He's been in some Twitter spaces. It's very toxic. The environment and the atmosphere at Chelsea right now is not looking good. So I don't see how this can be sustainable and this can continue going forward for the next few years. Do I think Potter's getting sacked now? No. Because again, it's a sunk cost fallacy. We've invested too much into him. If we lose our next few games, do I see him getting sacked? Yes. Do I see us making top 4? No. Who do I want to replace him? Is Hansi Flick. Absolutely. But at the moment as it stands, I don't think Potter will get sacked, and I think Potter will end up staying. But things have to improve drastically because this cannot continue. Because one thing will fall at some point. Either Potter's getting chopped, or some of the players are getting chopped, and we're changing the style of play. But Potter has to figure something out because he is on thin ice and things are running quickly. 2 wins out of 15 for a calibre, the stature of Chelsea is not acceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. So things have to change. Leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and I'll see all of you guys for my next video. Peace.